So I watched a different kind of movie this time. More of a documentary, really. I mean, from what I've read so far, after finishing it, it seems like it was mostly realistic. Maybe omitted just some slight details, but mostly realistic it seems. And so yeah, this is about a case here, which I've never heard of, really. Actually, I mean, I might have, but vaguely. Obviously, I knew of the origin of the general issue behind it, um, but not the specific case. I mean, I think I've heard of. Anyway, the movie is called the In the Name of the Father, right? Which obviously um makes one think of something religious, and in a way, well, it's it's very subtle at any rate. It's not like a religious film or such. It's just some slight religion is mentioned, but only in passing, pretty much. But I think it really highlights here an issue. I mean, in this case, three facets I think there were in this movie that highlighted. I mean, what happens here in societies generally. I think. Um, so this is a case about real bombing that happened in Sussex, Guildford pub in '74, and yeah, apparently they these people who were wrongly convicted weren't even um, weren't even what's the word? Well, the case was dismissed at the end of the movie, but so I'm assuming that's what happened. I still need to confirm that then. In reality, I'm assuming they won't just change such major details, I suppose. What's seriously disappointing about this, right? I mean, it showed it in the but only implied it in the movie. The issue of scientists, right? I mean, people assume generally that politicians, at very least, will bullshit, right? At worst, just lie, and some constantly. That's sort of to be expected, you know. Heck, even lawyers try their best. They don't lie per se. They just go around in circles and corners, and at any rate, they are playing a game. That's the whole point of lawyers. So even if the prosecuting lawyer was intentionally, I mean, well, we cannot verify that either way. So whether or not they were given the wrong facts, whether or not the alibi was made clear to them, we don't know. I'm not sure if it was known in reality either. So, you know, in this case, so it's remarkable that I think the scientists here in the specific case, at the very least, were even more of a liar than even lawyers in this sense, right? Which is, I mean, I don't exactly hear that often, so it's not exactly. I mean, it's not a stereotype usually, like it is with politicians, but I mean, before DNA um, was ever discovered and fingerprinting, etc. Well, I'm assuming they only relied mostly on eyewitnesses, alibis, and such. I mean, they still very much rely on alibis, but what's the point of scientists in this case? It's an infuriating case, really. I mean, besides the fact that at the end they said that the absolute liars of the police were acquitted. Um, you know, um, People always have this idea that police in the UK aren't quite, as bad as police in the US. No, I mean, it's maybe it might have something to do with the fact that obviously the US is much bigger, but um, so I mean, they have a lot more cases and a lot more acquittals essentially. But this is clearly a case where they just really did wrong. I mean, sure enough, one is good to say in the US they mostly kill others and somehow they're acquitted for murder. Cool, huh? Yeah, that is truly the sign of a society in distress. There clearly where people are acquitted for murder. Anyway, so this case though, well, they're acquitted for lying, right? But so I mean, it's not as bad as murder. It's like, but hmm, maybe he still has his job, but just relocated. Like sometimes they do, usually. Eh? But what is so disappointing, even more so than either the police or politicians lying, right? But I mean, I keep mentioning politicians. I'm not sure they had much to do with this in this case. I mean, it's a legal thing mostly, and the police are mostly at fault here. I mean, they fabricated evidence and hid evidence. Um, but still, I mean, no, actually, what politicians did do, so they enabled it. They passed law just 2 days prior, apparently. And yeah, this guy here, Jeremy Connell, said that he would have possibly been able to withstand being tortured for 48 hours if it was 48 hours like it was before. Then they extended it to a week. That's a democratic society. Yay! Yeah. So I mean, this is the thing, right? This is why I don't actually watch many such movies usually because they're like documentaries, and in a way, I don't feel like I want to commentate so much about documentaries because they're just documentaries. It's like reading an encyclopedia or something. Uh, but this is a movie, obviously. I mean, it was acted, and I'm assuming people think highly of it because it was acted very realistically, obviously. Um, but I just, yeah, sometimes so one has to say something about certain non-fictional cases, as in non-fictional stories in general, and yeah, it's just I don't know. I just read a an article here saying that some biographer of Jerry, and apparently childhood pal, said he didn't have an ounce of republicanism in his body. In him. Yeah, and so it's very interesting. I wonder if he still didn't have at the end. If he still didn't have, then I don't know. He was as naive as his father, possibly. But this is the point, right? The point of the name of the title, and like his father seemed so religious, right? He was praying. He was seen praying at one point in the movie. Um, and what's the point of that? What's the point? I mean, what his son said. At one point, he was a victim throughout his life, and he never fought, and yeah, that's realistic. Yeah, he got an example of um, harmful things in the workplace and such, and he never, yeah, especially if they're known. I mean, there's other cases where there was asbestos around, but asbestos wasn't necessarily known to be so toxic and such. So if it's known, yeah, sure enough, one should fight it. So what's the point though, right? It's I think it's sort of naivety, isn't it? I mean, you know, if there was a reason to lose faith, really, is in such a case. I mean, how could be sentenced to 10 years and somehow still believe in some sort of inherent goodness, positivity, possibly. I mean, I'm not sure some people seem to think that, God as some sort of separate entity is somehow exclusively, isolatedly positive. So I don't know about that, but I think many people still also think, or possibly, I don't know. I haven't seen Paul's anyway. Paul's is, and uh, but yeah, I don't know what people think like, but if there's a reason to lose faith, this would be it, right? Being sentenced wrongly for so long. Of course, I noticed that there wasn't anything to do with actual. Oh, no, no, what I'm saying, there was, yeah. As I said, yeah, this is the thing that is really astonishing. That it seems scientists fabricated evidence, just fabricated it. I mean, in the movie, it was really just a 30 second scene, but seems like the scientists there they didn't agree on screen, but it seems like they agreed to lie, to just So they either fabricated the evidence, either planted it, or simply just plainly lied, and the court took their word for it. Because of course, when there is so-called objective evidence, then usually it's sort of objective. You're not supposed to be subjective. This is the point. I mean, if scientists do this often, then that no, they should be disqualified. Really, it's absolutely, it's no different than Wakefield just fabricating evidence, and it's completely unacceptable. Science is supposed to be about objective evidence. Of course, as individuals, humans are always corruptible. That's always the case. So as humans, they are absolutely corruptible, but they really, really shouldn't be. And I think it is rare. I personally cannot think of any other case where this happened. Assuming that though, I just do not have exactly an extensive knowledge of legal cases at all. I really don't. So, but yeah, I just happened to learn about this movie, and it's just despicable. So, whether they planted nitroglycerine on even some mother's glove. I mean, how do these people sleep at night, really? How could they, just yeah. And then, of course, they didn't do anything, even after the real culprit. And this is the thing. The real culprit actually burned a police officer alive inside jail, Uh, and they still didn't say anything after that. They just transferred him to another jail, yeah, presumably like they did to lying the other lying police officer, not the one inside. Not the warden, the one outside, who is clearly very corrupt. Yeah, probably just doing something else. Probably retired by now, leading an easy life. Um, yeah, uh, I mean, this is why societies just break down and don't function anymore. I mean, just don't really. And this is why there should be a system that really it's one of these kind of cases where who guards the guardians, well, those which Apex clearly isn't there, just isn't. uh, but yeah, this was something though. This was something that, even after the real culprit burns a warden alive, man, they still had to fight their way to get the evidence that they deliberately obscured from them, um, and somehow still put it in the archival system. That's what I don't get. It's like archiving your lies and crimes. Of course, of course, of course. if they knew, if they had a hunch that they would never be judged for it. Why do they care? I guess archive all your crimes. Let's call this the crime system instead of a justice system. As in, the system that actually commits the crimes, not the other way around. No, of course not. Of course, I don't think this happens very often. So, this might be one of those. I don't know. I haven't seen stats about it. I don't know how many times it happens. And, what's absolutely horrific though about this whole case is that, it's just there's just victims all the way through. We begin with well, actually, yeah, we begin originally from the very idiotic fact that one country wants to occupy another country, as these wars always begin. I mean, what's the point of that? What on earth is the point? Not to mention this idiotic situation that's even present up to this day, with only Northern Ireland occupied and Southern Ireland called Ireland. It's the most absurd situation ever. But anyway, I mean, at least currently it's peaceful, ever since I think the late 90s. So this film was made just before I think it was called the Good Friday Agreement was agreed. I think that's the name. So this film was made before peace was really really instituted, possibly, and just they still never learned. So I mean, even 20 years later, they seem to want to just create conflict. Like even the general population seems to want to create conflict. Like, what's the point of that? I mean, probably just forgot what the troubles were like, and just thought, yeah, that's probably not good. Let's vote to have it happen again. Yeah. Or yeah, I don't know. Maybe they really honestly thought that it wouldn't happen, and who knows? It could not happen. But it's if you go up to a bee's nest and shake it around, yeah, I'd say that it's likely to for something to happen. Just vessels ever so likely. So we begin from victims all around. As I said, we begin from there. With one country occupying another. Obviously, the occupied country will be the victim in this case. And occupation itself isn't as such. I mean, the real crimes begin is obviously when people start to be killed. Right? That's the whole point. And there were many such cases where people were killed, and even British Army occupying Ireland was killed. Obviously, two sides to conflict are always killed. So essentially, they're just saying, "Yeah, kill us so we could kill you." I don't know. It's just people are so weird. Why? No. So that begins there, and then they're surprised when people retaliate. In this case, I mean, it's quite random to be honest. Bombing pubs, quite random. Um, but um, yeah, the justification is that it was an army pub, which is still not justification really, but at least not the general population. Even though the general population voted in the politicians that originally occupied, yeah, that originally did send the army to occupy another country. So essentially, it's this whole cycle of trash, really, just a sewer, just this stench just goes around and around and around. It's so disgusting, and apparently people, the only thing people can say, even people today, even people at any time, is, oh, well, let me just smell that a bit more, just smell it a bit more, just a bit more. It's just so horrid. And this isn't even the worst case, really. I mean, I haven't seen many other movies about many different cases. I haven't seen many. Not sure. I don't exactly watch much of this, but I've read a few cases of even where children were killed. Really, so this is mostly old politicians sending their army to occupy another country, which in turn kills children. Even obviously kills everyone, but children makes it so much worse. Considering these are really just bully politicians. Not sure what else, how else one can describe it. Um, I really do not get occupations. I do not get them at all anywhere at all in the world. I just do not get them. Like just leave people to self-govern. What's the point of that? I do not get. But hey, just me, and John Lennon over here. So yeah, so this was always a problem then. Okay, just the fact that so first this bombing happened, which killed you know apparently four soldiers and one civilian. Now any death is tragic. Any death is unacceptable. Any even deaths by the state. This would have been even worse because when they first went when they were first sentenced when the jury, and clearly juries are very fallible as well, decided to convict them. The judge just said that he'd rather have them killed. So I just, I mean, that judge might have not been, been lying, as in, he might have not have, said that because he really believed that they did it. So, he might have been lied himself. For all anyone knows, he hates the fact he said that. Then. I'm just trying to assume the best fate possible here. But ultimately, that judge is still guilty himself of, I don't, you know, of well, saying that, but I mean, being guilty of the worst possible thing himself. If indeed he could have sentenced them to death for a crime they didn't commit. So essentially, he would have done the same exact thing that the bombers did. I don't see the difference really. And now one might say that that civilian there that died from the bombing was the most tragic case. Every life skill is really tragic, but unless there was a draft, I mean that it's relative. I think every death is a tragedy, but I don't think there was a draft, so these soldiers just signed up to occupy another country. They just did. Now, they might not have killed anyone themselves. Obviously, if there was someone who was killed who did indeed kill someone else before, then the steps would go even further down to hell. But no one knows about it. Unlikely, I suppose. I don't know. I'm assuming it's the minority of soldiers who fired on people and such. Like I think it was called Bloody Sunday or such. I'm not sure if that happened before or after. I'm not very knowledgeable about Irish troubles. I'm just saying things from the little I know and from what I've seen from this movie. And I'm just obviously going on about the general issues. Generally, this could easily apply, to many other places, like India currently occupying Kashmir, etc. It's so horrid. Like, the whole thing is it's like people deciding, yep, I want bloodshed, and then they're surprised when they get bloodshed. I mean, they're mostly surprised that they get bloodshed from the people that they ordered to spill bloodshed, which is absurd because of course you're going to bloodshed would spill over everywhere. It would literally just spill over everyone. Literally, metaphorically too, so I suppose. It's it's so exhausting, honestly. I'm not even sure why I am talking so much about it. It's just exhausting. Uh, Watching movies like this, this is honestly why I mostly watch rom-coms. It's more they're also the most stupid genre possible. I mean, okay, there are a few other genres that are even more absurd and such, but rom-coms, some rom-coms are really the most stupid thing. But you know, sometimes you want stupidity as opposed to this cycle of tragedy. I mean, this is horrid, right? So we get victims in the pub, then we get victims who are simply talking to some homeless person when the bomb went off. And then we get liars, and then we get people who lie to, and then we get people who die in prisons because others lied about them. Hmm. But you know what the worst thing about the whole thing? I mean, you know, besides all, you know, obviously the worst would always be actual deaths and such. But what's potentially worse, yeah, is the fact that, as always, you know, as in many cases around the world, people will simply. I mean, you know, this guy didn't seem to even. I mean, if he really wasn't Republican, as you know, as in you know, small R Republican, as in you know, also to be honest, I'm not entirely sure what the British Queen did exactly about it, because you know, whenever I hear about British troubles, Irish troubles, I don't exactly. I only hear about politicians and obviously IRA, but not exactly. I don't think the Queen personally you know, like on in chess or something, she picked up the pawns and put them in Ireland. I don't think she has that capability. So sure enough, I think the politicians are much more culpable here, and the police obviously, who lied much more directly. But politicians enable them. Um, but in terms of a figurehead, I suppose I don't know what you could have done honestly though. Yeah. Um, so and you know what? What is really just I mean, you know, it's even worse than I thought. I don't know what to say. Just it's worse, right? Why? Oh yeah, you know how I assumed that and they were simply transferred. But yeah, transferred sideways and upwards apparently. Yeah, no. Not only were they acquitted, right? These two, three police officers. And by the way, I'm not sure why they didn't use their names. Um, I do not know at all. I mean, they should have used their real names, really, so people would really know. Because otherwise, what's the point? So, you know, apparently they were Thomas Dyer, John Donaldson, and Vermin Atwell. Yeah, who were acquitted. Uh, and this John Donaldson guy apparently went on to an illustrious judicial career and became master of the rolls. What rolls? Fat rolls underneath his smelly armpits. Uh, it's remarkable, right? Um, yeah. So, one of those things, isn't it? Like, you know, at least in the US, they don't have idiotic titles. So, in the UK, not only are they corrupt, they're idiotic as well. I might as well just tick off the boxes. Yeah, this is why I just these kind of cases deflate me. This kind of history is just exhausting to read about and learn and Yeah, rom-coms are definitely, what did you say? It's definitely good to waste time on. It's just depressing, isn't it? Just what? Why, while this bastard ended up wherever, the others who were eventually very far off acquitted, but spent decades in jail, including a 17-year-old, right? Or was it 16? So that's the justice system for you. It jails and kills children. Ooh, justice, huh? Hmm. Yeah. As the lawyer said in the movie, compassion should really be removed from the dictionary. By the way, as if he's really trying too hard to be so sarcastic. Apparently, his supposed motto was, get this, for liberty to the law. Yeah, right. Woo. Some quality irony there, huh? Yeah. Hmm. The only thing he seems to have ever done is say, remotely not awful or anything. Actually, apparently, he might have done two things. So, one was a contempt of court, and another is he apparently refused to prevent newspapers from publishing this Spycatcher memoir. Hmm. And apparently, soon after these people were acquitted, the Gopher 4 were acquitted, he, in retirement, wrote about oil spills. Huh. Maybe should have written about the spilling of uh, justice, Yeah. Totally spilled over everywhere. Um, hmm. Apparently, he specifically tried to say his closing remarks to coincide with the closing remarks of another justice in the Birmingham 6 case, which it seems like a very similar case as well. Haven't watched a movie about it or anything though. Yeah, and I'm not even sure. I mean, if I want to watch any more movies, like it's so awful. I don't think I'd rather this be a fictional case. You know, if it was fiction, at least, well, it's won't be so frustrating. No, it's not fictional. It's one thing I got out of this movie that I was thinking about is that really in societies it seems there's either people who are lucky. It's very much about luck. I mean, this could have been any other, random Irish people. I mean, this wasn't, targeted specifically for the Connollys and the Maguires, right? Not specifically, but they just wanted someone, and that's, kind of like a some genetic illness that just happens to, so people are unlucky, but in this sense, it's not, pure chaotic non-luck like that, sort of natural non-luck. No, this is society specifically oppressing people, of course. And it never ends well, does it?
because you oppress people, then other people are radicalized, then you get more bombings, then you oppress more people to supposedly prevent those bombings which were caused by the previous prior oppression. And it's a never-ending cycle of violence. I mean, I cannot believe no one can see this. Why do people want violence? Why? Why? Yeah, it's just so hot. So yeah, this is people are either lucky. Um, well, let's begin with unlucky then. I guess. I mean, as I said, unlucky is kind of like either natural or random, societally. So people can either be unlucky, like these were, or they can be lucky. Like let's say this Judge Ross, I mean, he wasn't snatched out of the street while he was studying law and accused of a crime. Isn't that some luck, huh? Not to have miscarriage of justice done on you. No, instead he went on to do it on others. Isn't that pretty? This is why society it doesn't function really. Society does not function when this happens. And this is why wars happen, why bombings happen. Just people should just learn to calm down. Like. Well, anyway, with regards to the movie itself, though, I thought it was, as usual, impressive that Daniel Day-Lewis really tried, even back in '93, really tried. He's supposed to be a character actor, and he really did that on this one. By not only losing weight but also subjecting himself to all right 3 days in an actual prison, which isn't much. I mean, surely not in comparison to over a decade. But he also apparently volunteered to get I think real inmates. I'm not sure to bang every 10 minutes. That's impressive and bizarre at the same time because I don't know, unless he got loads of money for that. I don't know what he got. I mean, it made profits. So anyway, yeah, that's impressive in itself, to get to the character. But he says he wants to understand what made someone sign such a confession, and yeah, for an actor to do that, that's something. I suppose that's how he gets his realism. Somehow. Um, But I guess he's known as an actor who doesn't exactly do a lot of films, and yet he does do films quite realistically usually. So I'm assuming he doesn't need much practice, possibly. So yeah, other than that though, yeah, Pete really died a few years ago, actually a few years, I think it was 2011 or something. So yeah, apparently he was supposed to be like 11 years older than him. Not sure how that's possible. He really did look quite old. And Daniel looked, yes, maybe possibly in his 20s. I don't know, maybe makeup was used. That's quite an illusion if so. Otherwise, I mean, this is a movie based on history, even though it's not totally historic, totally, like, especially with the thing with the suppose they wanted the lawyer to, because apparently she was a solicitor, not a barrister, and apparently there's a difference. Um, Apparently, Michael Mansfield represented them in reality. Right, didn't know that. I suppose, he should have been given credit if indeed he did. But I'm assuming that the person, though, the female barrister, no, the solicitor, really did thorough investigate it. So I suppose yeah, it's fine really that they gave credit to her. So what's annoying though indeed is that they didn't actually name the people who did all this. Apparently the Dixon was an amalgamation of other people. What was the point of that? No point, is there? Maybe there's really a real life Inspector Dixon somewhere, and he happens to be completely lawful. You know, be besmirching him. Somehow, the yeah. Well, anyway, people who want to look into it can. Yeah. What do such movies really change ultimately, though? I wonder. Some of those things, isn't it? I mean, did they change anything? Like, you could easily change, the possibility of interrogations not ending up in violence, right? Very easy. They could have done it long ago, but of course they didn't want to do it, did they? Like, you could set up cameras there and you could prevent, the hijacking of recording system by having external contacts and several other safeguards. There's so much that could be done. It's not like it's technological impossibility or anything. We could have safeguards. You could record an interview. I mean, why not? They should be recorded. I think they are recorded at least with regards to the sound. Somehow, this stuff still happens all around the world. It's unacceptable. Um, I mean, I think it's kind of obvious that in an oppressive situation where violence is used, people would end up doing anything. What do they expect? The worst thing then is that the culprit actually goes free, and what do you know? You get more people dying because the culprit is still free. Wow, what a justice system! Yeah, I mean, at this point, at that point, it would have been better to not have the system at all because at least it's not looking up innocent people. But if you actually have such a system, at least go after people that actually have done such a thing. And I don't know if police really did corrupt scientists, although, I mean, even if they did, scientists themselves, though, are to blame. I mean, obviously, sure, the police apparently were the crux of all corruption, but, scientists should really, really, I mean, that's the whole point, right? The whole point of science is to establish fact. This completely, just really, um, you know, hopefully there aren't many cases like this. I'm not sure if Birmingham 6 was like this as well, but it's really awful that even scientists participate in such fraud. Anyway, yeah, as a movie, it was interesting. As a sort of legal lesson, at least historical lesson. And well, yeah, it's I guess more of a documentary. It's a realistic documentary, I suppose one could say. But yeah, whatever. Anyway, it's what it is. Yeah, and yeah, interesting. Anyway.